TV8. This is a breaking news alert.
Major breaking news right now at noon. Several people arrested in an alleged organized, elaborate plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. We're interrupting French Open coverage for a special report right now.
This news coming down within the hour. Here's what we know. 6 men, Adam Fox, Barry Croft, Ty Garbin, Caleb Franks, Daniel Harris, and Brandon Caserta are all named in a federal criminal complaint filed by the FBI as co-conspirators in a plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. At least 5 of those named are Michigan residents, and one of them, Adam Fox, has a business here in Grand Rapids. The FBI says the group of 6 organizers, along with others, were planning a violent overthrow of government and were working with a militia group to grow its numbers.
They had a plan to attack the governor's lakeside vacation home and even blow up a bridge to slow down response. They also apparently made bombs, tested them. This is according to the FBI. They also talked about storming the Capitol and killing the governor and others. The group took lots of concrete steps to actually make at least the kidnapping plot happen, even going as far as traveling to the lake to stake out locations. A lot of details all laid out in a 15-page complaint that we're still digesting right now. The plot ends with the group's stated desire to kidnap Whitmer before the November 3rd election. News 8's Susan Samples is live at the Vac Shack on Grand Rapids South Side right now, which was investigated by the FBI last night. So, Susan, what are you learning?
Right. This is one of the locations that was raided. This is a vacuum repair shop, the Vac Shop. This is at the corner of 36th and Division Avenue. And I'm here with the owner of that shop right now. He is Brian Titus, and he has some information he wants to share. What's your understanding about what they were looking for last night when they raided your shop?
The FBI agent called me, and they told me that there was going to be a raid at my store, and they were trying to get a key. So they told me if I got here before them not to go in the store. But they told me they were looking for weapons or any kind of ammo. But I just wanted to understand that he don't own a business. I own the business. And I've known him since he was 8 years old. I knew he belonged to the militia, but I didn't know it was this deep. He kept it pretty quiet. So I just want to let everybody know people are safe to come to my business. The store's been here 40 years. That's what happens when you try to help out people. He broke up with his girlfriend a week ago, and he had nowhere to go with his dogs. You can see there's dogs in here. So I told him that he had to find a place. He was looking for a place. He actually had a place at 1 November to move out. And I'm a Marine veteran of 12 years. This is established business. People are safe to come here. It's just when you go out and help out people, this is what's happened. So they weren't looking at anything I did wrong because I didn't know about it.
We're talking about Adam Fox.
I don't know what happened. He's changed in the last 8 months. He had his own militia. As a Marine vet of 12 years, there's a lot of militias out there. I didn't think anything of it until he had his weapons. I told him he had to leave here 1 November to help him out. But he has changed in the last 8 months with COVID, wearing a mask. He believes his Constitution rights were taken away from him. He's afraid that if the Democrats become in, he kept saying they're going to take our Second Amendment rights away. And he's just, I don't know, he got involved with something over his head. So.
Did you have any idea that he was planning this?
No, I don't. I had no idea. And the FBI knew it. They knew it. They weren't looking after me and my business. They were looking for his stuff. Because obviously they already knew. I don't know if they had a plan in his militia or whatever, but obviously they did, how they knew so much. But they actually wanted to go through the stuff and make sure there was nothing in the store. It's completely safe. There was no bombs or explosives in here. Mainly ammo and some weapons.
And what kind of weapons are we talking about?
There was a 9mm and 2 ARs. And a lot of rounds and attachments.
2 assault rifles. and a 9mm.
Right. Right.
You said he's changed so much. What was he saying about the government?
He was anti-police, anti-government. He was afraid that if he didn't stand up with his Second Amendment and his rights, that country is going to go communism and communism and socialism.
When's the last time you saw Adam Fox?
Saw him yesterday, and he was here. He said he was going to a meeting somewhere, which is normal, meeting. But he never tells me what he's doing. But I kind of started seeing things. That's why I told him he had to get out of my store 1 November.
What did you start seeing?
Him buying more ammo, having more meetings. I didn't know he was up to all this, but I knew that you go to the meetings in Lansing. I thought he was just trying to stand up for our constitutional rights. That's basically what I thought.
What kind of meetings in Lansing?
When they had the protests in Lansing.
Which
Capitol.
protest?
The one for militia were there a few months back. He went to that. But just want people to know, don't be scared to come here. It'd be like somebody if you brought them in your house and they were a bad apple and they raided your house because they lived there. I feel like I was violated. They took my computer, took my cell phone. They say they're going to get it all back. They know I'm not involved, just caught in a bad situation. And
Okay. Tell me, it's Brian Titus, right?
Yes.
And you're the owner here.
I'm the owner. He's not the owner. I saw you pat him as the owner. He's not the owner.
He does not have a business in town.
No, he don't.
He was staying here because he's homeless.
Had no place to live. Felt sorry, but I told him he had to have his own place 1 November in a few weeks.
Okay. You were trying to do a good thing for somebody,
Right.
for somebody in need.
I didn't want him living in his car or in the street because I've known him since he was a little kid. He just changed. A lot of people have changed in the last year. It's hard.
Did you ever think that he could have a violent, idea or plan?
No, he had a temper, but who don't, He didn't mention anything in here about that. He kept that pretty quiet.
But you knew the militia piece.
I knew he had his own militia, which there's a lot of militias around,
Thank you very much for talking to us.
And God bless everybody. I'm a Christian, and my beliefs just keep me going. This is very hard for me. I have a family to take care of.
You don't have any plans of shutting down this vacuum shop?
No, I'm not shutting down. I've been open since March. It's been really tough. So come on in and we'll talk if you want to come in. Give you a discount on a vacuum or some supplies.
Brian Titus, owner of Vac Shack here at 36th and Division. You heard it from him. His, friend, you would call him a friend, that he's been helping for much of Adam Fox's life. Right. He let live here recently because he was homeless and knew he was in the militia. Brian says he did not know about the plan, the alleged plot. So that's what we know right now from here, 36th and Division, the Vac Shack. Back to you guys right now.
All right, Susan Samples reporting live for us. And again, you saw that video from last night of the FBI raiding that Vac Shack. At the time, we had no idea.
We had no idea that it would lead to what we're discovering in this very large complaint that we're still going through. But you're hearing from the owner of that vacuum shop where some of these meetings did take place. So obviously a very emotional owner there saying he didn't know any of this stuff was going on.
And in less than an hour, we are expecting a 1 p.m. news conference from the FBI and the State Attorney General Dana Nessel. That's at 1 o'clock this afternoon. In a bit, we expect it to be regarding this plot to kidnap the governor. We'll carry that live here at Wood TV and at woodtv.com. We now return you to